Hey guys, this is James, and we are here for InBetweenIsode number 97, which is a White2Tea club, which means meat is here.
Hey, it's the June Tea Club teas.
Yep, we will bring you May shortly. And what do we have? What are the teas here?
Right on. So the choices this time are interesting. It's as like you mentioned, it's two different teas, except the base material is the same, and it's a 2016 Mengsongs raw pu'erh.
Yep, that is Mengsongs. Yeah,
I would ignore my pronunciation. Chances are it's wrong.
And that's the raw pu'erh.
Ooh, it smells great. Wow.
Yeah, very intense. So the material is very fresh.
And then so the other tea that we'll be trying out is a 2016 Mengsongs black tea. Looks like I would have to guess the owner of White2Tea Club went around Yunnan searching for the tea and happened upon a tea producer in Mengsongs. They were using their spring production to make both the raw and black. Ooh, nice, very aromatic.
Yep.
This is the black.
That is the black, yes.
Okay. Alright, I have to be honest, I'm generally biased against the black tea, and I find them far too bitter for my tasting. But let's try it. Let's see if
let's go for it. Let's do the raw pu'erh first.
Yeah, let's do the raw. That was interesting when you said that before. These are the tiny little things that I wouldn't even have thought about if I were doing a blog. It makes sense, kinda in hindsight, to try out the raw pu'erh before going to the black tea, just because the black would overpower the taste.
Well, we'll see. Raw pu'erh is not exactly known for having a light taste either.
That's also true.
So why don't we do 2 rounds, 4 infusions on the raw pu'erh first, and then we'll move on to the black tea.
Very, very light color to the infusions.
And so, looking at the raw materials here, so we got our 2 cakes here. So you can sort of see that the materials for both of them are similar looking, obviously.
True. Yeah.
And very small leaves. Like, these are very small leaves, especially compared to, like, Wui's, what you're used to.
Right. And so looking at these, if somebody hadn't pointed out to me which one's which, I would think that the lighter one is raw pu'erh, and then the darker ones is the black tea.
And you would be correct.
Okay. All right.
And then
I wonder if there's any... There's no... Well, there's a slight aroma to the black tea. Man, I'm just loving the aroma coming from the leaves after you've infused them.
It smells wonderful.
For the raw pu'erh especially.
Yeah, it's very fresh. Very fresh
very
smell.
Fresh, yeah.
I'm going to give this a couple more.
Let's see if there's anything interesting that stands out. The tea was processed with traditional raw pu'erh processing. This is for raw pu'erh, obviously, and picked, withered, fried in a wok for kill green phase, rolled, and then sun dried.
So those are the standard steps of processing a raw pu'erh. Yep.
Interesting. And then for the black tea, it was picked and then fully oxidized, resulting in a dark color. Imagine a yellow banana being bruised, how it quickly turns brown, and the tea leaves are bruised and left to oxidize prior to being dried. Interesting process. All right.
Yep.
You know what? I'm ready to try the tea.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Cheers. So here is the first 2 steeps of the raw pu'erh. Cheers, guys. It's got a decent body. There's a light bitterness running through it for sure. I would say that this tastes a little bit more bitter than the Huang Pian brick that we had a few episodes back.
That's That's true. Actually, it does taste slightly bitter, even though like just from the looks of it, it looks, a lighter color.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a perfect example where you can't just look at the color and kind of judge
Exactly
what kind of the taste it might have.
And how do you think this tea, for instance, compares to the other young raw pu'er we had, the Huang Pian from a previous episode?
This is I find this also fruity, almost plummy, in taste. I'm not generally, this is something I don't notice in teas, but this is the first time that the fruitiness comes right through the tea at the very tip of the tongue, and just when you smell the tea at the same time too.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good observation. I think it's a lot more active on the tip of the tongue than the Huang Pian.
Yeah.
It's very I get a lot of flowers. I get a lot of green flavors for this tea, like a lot of grassiness.
That's true. I can't exactly place what tea has a similar level of grassiness, but I've tried a few different teas, somewhere in the green oolong section, where it just feels very similar.
Similar to this tea.
Similar to this tea,
Yep.
yeah. At least part of the taste,
Yeah, I would agree.
Wow, this is good tea.
And
So these are the third and the fourth infusion.
Yep.
Combined.
These are the third and the fourth ones. And cheers, sir.
Cheers. Wow, that was hot. But you know what I'm finding is I'm finding this tea feels very easy for me to drink personally.
Mhm.
Almost just maybe it's the aroma more so than the taste, but I feel like I find it easier to drink than the Hong Pian even.
Interesting.
And then
I would say the aroma is quite fantastic on it.
definitely. So it's almost hard to imagine that, actually I didn't know a whole lot about the process or what kind of material goes in the background, so for them to have a black tea come out of the same material is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it'll be interesting, I think, to taste side by side with this, and just to see some of the differences, because the material looks very similar. Mm-hmm. It's obviously processed in completely different ways.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fascinating to see what it tastes like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this tea does a really good job of sort of balancing light bitter notes with light sweet notes.
Yes.
It's not,
very
there's
true.
some bitterness, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not a bitter tea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's some sweetness, and I think it really lingers in your mouth with a lot of sort of sweet flavors.
That's true. I'm not finding a lot to add to what you said at this point, but I think I actually definitely agree with you on everything you just said.
So
I'm liking this tea.
nice. So so it sounds like you would prefer this tea over something like the Huang Pian from the previous episode.
Yeah, but I also, that was the thing, is Huang Pian is a very easy tea to drink as well.
Yep.
And this just kind of adds a little bit of fun to, Huang Pian.
It's a little bit more
Kind
active.
of, yeah.
It's a little bit stronger, and we have the Huang Pian actually right in front of us because we just filmed that episode. But you can look at the material, and it's very different. It's a lot smaller of leaves for the Mengsong. We have big leaves that are a lot more chopped up. Yeah. For that.
Mm-hmm.
And take a smell of that. So it really does have a wonderful aroma, a lot of flowers, a lot of florals and stuff like that.
The thing is that the teas are only a year apart at the maximum, right? In terms of
It is.
in terms of processing and how long they were kept before we're having them. The color for this tea for Mengsong is lighter. For the
Definitely.
leaves, right?
Definitely very, very bright verdant green color on the tea leaves.
Mm-hmm. It's very good. I think I really like this tea.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, shall we move on to the black tea?
Yes.
All right, guys. So we are going to brew the black tea,
Uh-huh.
which we can see right here.
Mm-hmm. Also a 2016 tea.
Same materials,
Same material.
just processed very differently. So we'll wait for that to stop its boil, and then we will get going.
Now, let me ask you something. Based on looking at the gaiwans, what I see is the quantity of black tea, just by observing from the top here, and obviously we haven't had as many infusions, but it seems like it's a slightly smaller quantity.
It's actually similar.
It is the same.
Compressed teas could be very challenging.
Right.
You would usually brew black tea a little bit differently, but I actually use more odd parameters for the raw pu'erh than I did for the black tea. So because of meat's sort of aversion to bitterness, I'm going to try to brew this a little bit lighter. Black teas are not exactly what either of us drinks, so we will be improvising the parameters a little bit, because it's not a sort of tea that I brew every day.
What's interesting is I base whenever I have wui, I base a lot of my sort of decision making on how the tea smells before brewing and while brewing it, and this is where black teas. Wow, smells nice. This is where black teas throw me off completely, is because they smell really nice, but when you drink the black tea, it just comes off really bitter, you know, and that just may be me, but it's I don't know why that is.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, characteristically, the British, who are of course very avid drinkers of black teas, tend to brew it very hard and then toss a bunch of cream and sugar in, which will certainly solve the situation. Yeah,
for sure.
So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different methodologies for brewing, and it can be a challenge.
Actually, I've had a whole ton of tea in a similar fashion, but I've never actually tried just brewing the tea without any sort of, and then just having it without any sort of cream or milk or sugar. So yeah, I've tried a couple of different kinds of black teas, and I just, the bitterness kind of,
overpowers.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand.
Yeah. But the color's nice, dark goldenish.
Yeah, dark,
and
deep color. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's try it.
Shall we drink? It's still rather hot, I believe.
Cheers. Very hot. Still very hot.
Yeah, I'm going to wait for that to cool a little bit. But I'm getting kind of an interesting sort of silky texture off this that I get out of some black teas. The texture would definitely be quite a bit different than the raw pu'erh.
Right.
Certainly none of those, the flavor profile is completely or totally different.
Right. I'm getting a light sweetness, actually. I'm not feeling a whole lot of bitterness just yet.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Still quite good. You know what I just realized is it would be interesting to go from a raw pu'erh to a black tea and see if that made the transition slightly better. That's how I feel right now, having that raw pu'erh in the last few minutes kind of helps, jump into the black tea, as opposed to just starting out blank on a random part of the day and just going with a black tea.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept because I think a lot of our taste is inherently very comparative, and so what we drink before, or if we just ate a heavy meal with like lots of garlic or something immediately before having the tea, of course the tea will taste very different.
Yeah.
So the tea and the tea order that you're drinking in certainly does have some impact. And so I would say this is far less bitter than the raw pu'er, for instance.
Yeah.
A lot sweeter.
Right now it is. Yeah, it feels a lot sweeter.
A nice texture to it, and I will confess that I brewed this tea once before, and it's a bit bitter for my liking, so I may have gone a little bit lighter on the parameters than I normally would.
Well, I like this level of brewing actually.
Yeah.
Feels quite good. I think it also sits well because there was a slight bitterness in the back of my throat from the previous tea.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as strong, but that just the taste that was left behind from that tea complements the black tea very well.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that the viscosity, there's a difference in viscosity. I would say the raw pu'er, at least the way we brewed it, was a bit thicker, a little bit more oily in the mouth, more butter and stuff, rather than this tea, which is a little bit more slick. It's a thinner mouthfeel, but very sweet.
True.
And really wonderful aromas off of this as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, infusion 3 and 4.
Yep, here we are.
Now, how much did you brew the infusion 3 and 4? Did you try to even it out a little bit, or did you? I mean,
well, I did
also go with a slightly lighter.
I did some of the homemade brewing tactics. So I brewed 3 a little bit heavier, and then 4 a little bit lighter.
Okay.
You have some idea of how strong it is based off of the color. So you guys saw me brew 3 and 4, and I brewed 3 while I was pouring for the steeps 1 and 2 to us. So it was a little bit longer, and then I adjusted brew 4 to try to create an even brew, or make about the same color as previously.
Yeah. All right.
Cheers, guys. It's different, actually. It's stronger.
Yeah. Definitely a kick and a good amount of bitterness right at the top.
Mm-hmm. And is that the sort of bitterness that you try to avoid in black teas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's very true. Right now, though, it's still, as we were talking about the transition phase, I think it feels better than it would just with a blank palate, you know?
Interesting. And black teas, small leaf teas at least, tend to brew out fast, and both of these are small leaf for sure, small leaf teas, and that's just because you can get more surface area sort of all over them. And now that we brewed it a few times, they're taking up about similar levels in the Gaiwan.
Right. Perhaps a little bit.
Maybe the raw pu'er is a little bit fluffier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could also be because we kind of brewed the raw pu'er a little bit stronger than we've done with the black tea, right? Yeah.
So I'm getting sort of like bitterness paired with like some chocolate for this tea. Still sort of has that silky texture and a little bit heavier on the body.
Yeah, I feel the same level of silkiness from before, kind of smooth and but definitely bitter.
And so that's definitely something that for the next couple infusions I would adjust to be a little bit more down. In fact, I'm surprised how strong this is after the first infusion. I thought it would be a little bit weaker. But yeah, it's interesting. So of these two, I know they're very different teas. Which one do you prefer?
Hands down, I prefer the raw pu'er. I love just about everything about the pu'er, actually. From aroma to the taste to how it felt after I was done drinking. This is for the black tea. Again, I'm not sure if it's because we had the raw pu'er before, or if it's just the black tea. But I so far this is the black tea that I've liked the most. I have not liked any black teas as much as I've liked this one.
Okay.
Although I
So
would
that's
still
a very,
keep my hands off of this
backhanded
black tea.
compliment. So you would never buy this black tea,
Yeah.
but you like it more than the other ones.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we have yet to do the May Tea Club, which is a bunch of black teas. So we will be doing those soon. I will brew them light. We will see how Meat likes them. I've actually liked a few of those, so we'll see how that goes. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in. Check us out at TeaDB.org. Thank you, Meat, for appearing again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We still have a couple more to go with Meat before we are all caught up. But yeah, thank you guys for following, and cheers.
Cheers.